There's a strange thing that happens when you dig deep into soldier memoirs, after-action reports and old field manuals. You start to notice gaps. Not everything a soldier relied on made it into the official record. Some tools were so ordinary, so unremarkable, so improvised or so mission-critical that nobody bothered to speak about them. And yet these overlooked items often made the difference between making it home and becoming another statistic. If you're a serious history buff or a survival-minded researcher, understanding these hidden pieces of the World War II toolkit gives you a sharper, more grounded picture of what real fieldcraft looked like. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't polished. It was raw practicality, forged in some of the hardest environments on Earth. So, before diving into the list, here's the hook most people miss. The best survival knowledge from World War II isn't locked in grand strategies or elite unit myths. It's tucked inside the quiet, mundane objects that men carried without fanfare. Items that solved everyday problems, kept them alive in the cold, helped them navigate, or kept their minds anchored in absolute chaos. These are the things veterans rarely talked about, not because they were secret, but because they were so essential they never needed to be mentioned. Learning about them isn't just trivia. It's a masterclass in low-tech resilience that modern preppers can take straight into the field today. Soldiers quietly relied on sewing kits for more than torn uniforms. It's easy to overlook the housewife, the small sewing kit issued to nearly every combatant. Soldiers rarely mentioned it because it wasn't heroic, but the truth is that this tiny pouch kept men alive in countless indirect ways. It repaired torn gear before it failed at the wrong moment. It let soldiers reinforce straps on field packs, tighten a loose button that could snag when crawling, and stitch torn boot leather to prevent trench foot. Preppers today can pull the same principle forward. A compact sewing kit can reinforce shelter fabric, patch torn clothing, fix molly straps, and even repair gloves in winter conditions. If you want to apply this knowledge practically, start by learning a few sturdy stitching techniques like the simple whip stitch and the saddle stitch. They require no special training, but provide field-grade durability. Soldiers use safety pins as improvised multi-purpose tools. A simple steel safety pin doesn't sound like much, and that's exactly why soldiers didn't talk about them. Yet they appeared everywhere, securing bandages, temporarily repairing gear, fastening loose straps, unclogging mud from weapon parts, even picking primitive locks in occupied towns. They weighed nothing and fixed everything. The modern survival application is straightforward. Add a handful of robust safety pins to your everyday carry kit or your bug-out bag. They can secure torn clothing, improvise fishing hooks, organize cable management, and act as emergency medical tools. WWII soldiers carried them because they solved 20 problems for the price and weight of 0. Soldiers depended on waxed paper and greaseproof wrappers far more than anyone really recorded. Food rations came packed in wax paper and greaseproof wraps, and, well, soldiers quickly learned that the packaging was often more useful than the rations themselves. They used it as fire starters, waterproofing layers, makeshift cups, insulation for boots, and even liners for pockets to keep matches dry. Preppers can mimic the same sort of ingenuity with modern equivalents like freezer paper, waxed wraps, and, even fast food sandwich paper. Try this. Fold waxed paper into tight packets, store them in your kit, and use them as waterproof tinder or improvised rain covers for maps. Soldiers quietly relied on small metal tins as compact survival containers. Tins from candies, tobacco, or medic rations were prized not for their contents, but for their structure. Soldiers used them to store matches, tinder notes, small tools, and even pain relief powders. A tin was a shield against moisture and crushing, and in wet European winters or the Pacific's humidity, that could be the difference between fire and no fire. Today, you can replicate this exactly. Build a micro-kit inside a sturdy mint tin waterproof matches, a small ferro rod, chlorine tablets, a razor blade, safety pins, and, just a few feet of cord. WWII. Soldiers weren't romantic about it. Anything that kept things dry was honestly sacred. Soldiers made constant use of candles and stubs for heat, light, and, morale. Candle stubs travelled through the war in pockets and packs. Not big candles, just tiny leftover pieces. They dried socks, warmed hands, melted grease to waterproof boots, created instant light in bunkers, and offered a psychological anchor during long nights. A modern survivalist can benefit from the same principle. Keep a small survival candle in your pack. In cold settings, it can raise the temperature of a small shelter by several degrees. You can also use it to soften cordage, seal knots, lubricate zippers, and melt pitch for repairs. Soldiers depended heavily on scrap cloth and cut-up uniforms. Scrap cloth wasn't really mentioned in memoirs because it was just everywhere. Soldiers cut pieces from destroyed uniforms, blankets or sandbags and used them for insulation, bandages, padding for gear, sling improvised straps, and, field-expedient camouflage. For modern practical use, scrap cloth is still among the most flexible survival materials. A few pieces of durable cotton or old uniform fabric can serve as char cloth, bandages, waterproof filters, sweat rags, tinder bundles, and gear wraps. Soldiers quietly used lip balm and grease-based ointments as multi-purpose survival balms. Small tins of lip balm or petroleum-based ointments were technically medical items, but soldiers used them for, just about everything. Preventing frostbite, waterproofing gear, keeping weapon parts from rusting, soothing burns, sealing cuts, and even helping create fire by coating cotton or paper. These are just some of the clever, resourceful ways soldiers put lip balm to use. For modern preppers, petroleum jelly cotton balls are honestly one of the most effective fire starters on Earth. And a simple tin of multi-purpose ointment can really boost both comfort and survival effectiveness. Soldiers always carried string and thin cord because, it solved endless problems. Cordage rarely appears in heroic accounts, but honestly, it was a lifeline. Soldiers used string to hang drying socks, tie gear silently, set trip notifications, secure tarps, lash equipment, and repair packs. The real lesson here is simple. Cordage is king. In your modern kit, always keep bank line, paracord, or even heavy twine. Soldiers didn't carry it because it was tactical. They carried it because, frankly, life without it was harder. If you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten survival items that shaped real fieldcraft during the Second World War, make sure you subscribe to The Prepper Historian, share this video with a fellow history buff, and help keep these overlooked lessons alive.